Hey everybody, we're going to be interviewing Lavy today. Just waiting for Lee to join. We are adding these videos to YouTube. They are kind of long, so YouTube's the best place to keep track of this stuff. So I'm just adding Lee to the conversation now.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, we're back.
This is so close. Hey.
Yeah, How's
it going?
I haven't seen you in forever, so it's weird seeing your face. I was just using an analog clock, and I didn't realize it was 1 o'clock, so I ran over and checked my phone. It was already 1. The clock on the wall is a little slow.
Well, that's on you, dude.
Yeah, so we have to keep these to an hour, otherwise it boots us. I'm sure you've heard that whole thing already. Yeah, that was a fast connection. I'm kind of used to rambling for a little bit.
I know.
Yeah, because you. So I just want to say again, we're doing these videos. We're doing them every day, Tuesday through Saturday, 1 o'clock. They all end up on YouTube. So they're live for 24 hours. If people have questions, add a question at the bottom. That's the best way for us to see it, this question mark icon. Yeah, or you can comment down below or whatever. We'll try to see it. But thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
You have 2 different drinks, I see.
Water and coffee.
Yeah, me too. That's weird.
What's that one? Oh, it's like milk.
Yeah, I drink milk now. No, this is boxed water that we have here at Bread and Salt. It's eco-friendly, no plastic, dude. Anyways, I have a lot of photos. I'm going to show some stuff. You know, I've known you for a really long time. It's kind of hard to just, but the good thing about it is that we had Michael James Armstrong, and, we all started Ice Gallery together. I always call you a co-founder of Ice Gallery, and I would say our version of Ice Gallery, because Ice Gallery was around for a long time before us. But
Right. We were 2010 to 2012, right?
Yeah. But you and I were there specifically before that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to start right with this. I usually ask people state your name and date of birth.
Okay.
You don't.
Lee Lavy.
I'm kidding.
Lee Lavy, February 27th, 1982.
Okay, great. I'm older than you are. Okay, it's a good start.
Yeah, awesome.
I don't know where you want to start. Where are you from? I know you ended up in San Diego on different occasions. You kind of had that wild idea to leave Montana, where you are currently.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was raised in Montana and went to San Diego when I was like 15. I was like fucking palm trees and the ocean, like surfer bros, which seems, like kind of like a fantasy world. And when I arrived there, I realized it was all real. And there were like a lot more people.
Yeah, I know you ended up at Tower Records on Sports.
Yeah, I worked at Tower Records, got Employee of the Month one time. Pretty good. Yeah.
That is cool.
And yeah, I worked there, and then like my car exploded, and financially everything went to hell, so I had to come back to Montana. Yeah, and then I ended up moving back down there again a couple years later. So.
Yeah, and I think that's when I met you. We all were working at the art store before it was Blick, and I remember you showed up your first day. You're wearing a Velvet Underground t-shirt, and we're like, right? It was the Andy Warhol banana.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we were just like, all right, we're friends.
Yep.
And then that night we went and drank beer at the railroad track.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
I mean, that's pretty much the story. I don't know what happened after that. But
drank beer by the railroad tracks and skateboarded a lot.
Yeah, we would go skating almost every night after work or whatever, just downtown skateboarding. And then, yeah, I don't know where you want to go from there. We ended up at Ice Gallery in North Park and had studios there. And
yeah, Ice Gallery, it was just like, it was a derelict building. I think it cost us $500 a month to rent for the whole building.
I remember.
It was like a Ninja Turtle lair, like the roof leaked, rats lived in there. I remember the first night we were in there, we were setting up our studios. We turned on the lights and cockroaches were everywhere.
Well, I remember the light switch was, you entered the room and the light switch was across the room, and I'm walking in behind you and the room was dark and all we could hear was crunch, 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 crunch. And we're just like, you know, who left a bunch of garbage on the floor as we're walking through the space, turn on the lights, and it was all cockroaches.
I was on a chair instantly. It was so disgusting, man.
It was a floor, it was a carpet of cockroaches that we had walked through.
Those big ass cockroaches.
When we talk about that space, people don't know how derelict that space was. So when we ended up doing the gallery, well, you and I were in a band together.
Brains.
Yeah, it was called Brains. And that space, originally, we were using it as a practice space in the back, and we had lots of punk shows and crazy stuff happening there, and lots of artists and
crazy shit went down.
Yeah, and it was kind of like the gallery in the front when we started doing that was just, we walled it off, and in the back was still just falling apart. It was like an old Western movie set where there's like, God, you know, and we
had a dude sleeping in there.
Yeah, it was like a real artist moment where we were, you know, it seems like that stuff is so unattainable now, but, you know, because all the buildings have been had, and it was a pretty special moment that we had a hold of for a while. But that kind of, I don't know if you wanted to talk about anything else, you know, like, I know at the time you were going to City College in downtown, similar to Griselda, you did this path where you were going to City College and then you transferred to SDSU.
Yeah, I was working in a gallery downtown. It's called L Street Fine Art. We put on like the San Diego Art Prize shows, so met a lot of San Diego artists that way. And all I did was like study Spanish and math while I was going to school, and I drew a bunch of comic books, read a shitload of books. It was a great job. And then I did City College at night. So I did that for like 5 years, and then transferred to SDSU and graduated from there in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked with Richard Keeley and a bunch of other rad artists from there, Eva Struble. Yeah.
I see people already talking about questions, but I want to talk about, just to get us going, you know, this piece that you did at Ice Gallery.
Yeah.
Which, you know, people can kind of see now when we talk about this space, it was viewable from the outside.
Yeah.
So that was one of the cool things about our gallery, is that it just had these massive windows. I think Mikey said that they were 5 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah, they're huge. And we didn't even know they were there when we first got into Ice Gallery. I think you cleared that space out and kind of found those windows behind boards.
Yeah, the building was boarded up, so people might. I mean, so we could talk about Ice Gallery forever, but
right,
you know, the space evolved, and look at how beautiful and perfect that space looks. You know, that was like elbow grease and every cent we had to make.
Well, for that particular show, we built 2 walls and just cleaned the shit out of the space. We were able to knock down walls, build walls, put holes in the floor, do whatever we wanted. It was great.
Yeah, I even remember I'm pretty sure I commissioned Mikey to make our address signage, which is right there. I commissioned Mikey to make a bench for the gallery and the address signage and stuff like that. But this piece that you did at Ice Gallery was like, you know, it was blowing my mind at the time. You were painting directly on the wall, and you did an earlier version of this, but this is paint on the wall. Can you explain what is going on in this photo?
Yeah, it was paint that was poured behind like painter's plastic, and the painter's plastic created all these like really interesting kind of like organic shapes and patterns. It was 60 feet long, 6 feet tall, I think. Yeah.
And it wrapped around the room. So
yeah,
if you weren't viewing it from the windows, you could walk in there and walk all around this pristine space, which, you know, if anybody would have seen that space before, which on the Michael James Armstrong has done such a great job of keeping track of all this stuff.
Yeah,
There's photos. there's a chronological order to all the shows that we did starting from the beginning. So yeah, all those shows are documented. But I thought that was kind of a neat place to start because, yeah, you were going to SDSU kind of at the end of that time, or what was going on? Like, where were you?
It was like right, I think I did my first show at Bread and Salt Ice Gallery, where I was through the water balloons at the walls and stuff. And that was my first semester at SDSU in 2010. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was another crazy moment. You know, there's photos on the Ice Gallery SD website where, you know, it doesn't show the process, but you were just.
Well, there's a video. There's a video that shows all the process. Yeah.
You know, us having our own space meant that we made the rules. We didn't give a fuck what the landlord was thinking because the landlord didn't care what we were thinking as long as the money came in. And so you took that as an opportunity to create these massive installations, and for the black and white mural project, you were filling water balloons with India ink.
Yeah, varying cuts of water in India ink. So I created like a whole grayscale band that ran the wall. So it's sort of similar to the one that you just showed, but it was 2 feet and like 30 feet long, I think.
Yeah. And everybody should go to the website and see that stuff. I mean, just to think of like, no gallery, nobody's going to let you do that now.
Yes.
Nobody would let anybody do that.
Yeah. It's kind of the dream to have a space like that again, actually, but hard to come by.
Right. And it kind of, looking back, it's kind of hard to believe that we had access to a space like that. And it was like, you know, that space was handed down to forever through artists. I know a lot of artists had that space before us, but we kind of reclaimed it as our own version for a long time. I know Griselda just asked a question about SDSU. If you have a question, use the question mark icon. But Griselda says, tell us about the soil square sculpture you made at SDSU.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that was in a sculpture class that I took with Richard Keeley. And I can't remember what kind of started the impetus of that piece, but I just made like a scale size dirt piece that I was kind of like looking at what the burial depths of like a coffin in the ground would look like if you took it out and put it on the walking plane. And so I made like these kind of like scale size. They were really small actually. But I made 3 of those for Keely's class.
I have some photos from that time that I was there for one of these, so I wanted to bring it up because it was such an interesting thing. And what were you thinking, like getting into dirt and all that kind of stuff? Like you all of a sudden had this fascination with labor and dirt and everything. This piece in particular.
Oh, yeah.
This was such a wild experience, and I got to help you with this a little bit.
Yeah, I was, that's an interesting one. I was looking at all these piles around the streets and like how cool a pile was and like sort of inherent qualities of a pile that you can't really create. It's just kind of like this chaotic chance sort of plop. And at the same time, I was installing a piece at the Museum of Contemporary Art. I worked there with you, by Sarah Z, that was bought by the museum in the early 2000s and was up for like 3 years.
Right.
This piece it just had like all kinds of like weird elements. If you know Sarah Z's work, you know she works with plastic cups, like trash, strings, all sorts of different kinds of items.
Styrofoam
and the install book was like that thick. So to reinstall it after it, you know, been down for like 15 years was just crazy because no matter how good the directions were to install it, it was impossible to ever do it the same. So I kind of took that work and we found this pile of like mixed nature and architecture out in the woods kind of by your house in Lakeside.
Yeah, I live out in East County and we went down to the San Diego river bottom.
Yeah.
Which in East County and far Lakeside, it's dry. It's where the river starts out there and it's dry most of the time. And we went for a walk and I don't know what we were doing out there, but we found this hobo encampment where somebody had literally like torn down a building by breaking it into pieces.
Right.
That's what I remember.
Somebody got crack crazy and just tore that thing apart. So yeah, we documented it layer by layer with that blue tape and a number system and kind of like camera work so that I could kind of take it apart and rebuild it at school like the best that I could. So yeah, it was a weird one.
Yeah, and I mean, you took this whole archaeological approach, you know, it was like kind of, I was helping you to collect the stuff, and I was just your worker. You know, I was like, okay, I'm just on this mission with whatever Lee wants to do. And it was kind of this approach that we had with Ice Gallery, where it was like, you know, the artist is playing artist and we're just here to assist, which we all kind of learned that method from working at the Contemporary Museum, and we applied it to our everyday practices.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I think there were some professors at school that had a really hard time with that one.
I bet. You know, it reminds me, I know it reminds me a little bit of the Robert Morris Dirt piece. It's untitled, but it's called Dirt. It's got, you know, it's kind of that pile kind of artwork kind of thing, where it's like got bucket loads of grease and steel and copper. Do you know that piece?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I'm not comparing you to Robert Morris in any way, but
I mean, I like that guy.
I'm just wondering what, you know, were you, besides Sarah Z, which you and I got to work on Sarah Z sculptures. So, you know, were there other artists that you were interested in the time that you were kind of channeling or thinking about, or what?
As far as artists go, when I was thinking about that work, I think I was more interested in like how they transported like Francis Bacon's studio after he died to, I think they moved it to Ireland to a museum, so they had to like reconstruct it piece by piece. So I was pretty interested in that.
Yeah, what a crazy thing to do. I know they did that with Brancusi's studio too, Brancusi Studios in France. But you know, so much, I know like performance is also something that you've been doing, and I don't know if that comes from being a singer in a band or performer in a band, where you just have this like uninhibited kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, as a singer in a band, you kind of have to like go a little extra. So I don't know. That was performance. That's like, as far as singing, that was like a exorcism almost, and the audience can feel that you're putting out a ton of energy. You're just kind of like killing yourself for the audience, and that in terms of performance, that was like chaos. Anything could happen. That was, you know, that was interesting for me.
I know after you were at SDSU, you ended up being accepted into the MFA program at Berkeley.
Yeah.
I have this.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is where like performance and all that stuff started to culminate in what you were doing. You know, the act of labor and also all these things kind of started to mesh together in what you were doing. And this might be an extension of what you were mentioning of SDSU, what Griselda had mentioned. But
yeah, that's the actual scale piece. So that piece was 6 feet tall by 7 feet long, 28 inches wide, I think. That was the first one. I did 3 big dirt pieces while I was at Berkeley. Yeah, and then in the background is this canvas that was wrapped inside the mold as I was building that thing. But yeah, building it was as much a part of the work to me as, you know, the finished outcome. So
yeah, I mean, how much dirt is that? That's back-breaking amounts of dirt.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't know how much it was, but.
So explain how you made a mold for that kind of thing and what you were doing. I have another photo here that kind of describes it, but
well, yeah, I just built a plywood mold. Oh yeah, that's the second one. That was at the first year MFA show, and the day before the opening, I went to remove the mold, and it just burst open, and you know, completely annihilated what I thought the sculpture was going to be. But it ended up being much more interesting in the long run. You could see like how it burst open. There was action all around it, like the dirt folded. And at the time, I was thinking a lot about Bay Area fault lines and California fault lines in general. So this thing just got me, like the whole accident of this piece just got me thinking of on a whole new track.
Yeah, I mean, you can see also that the mold is lined with canvas, so the mold became paintings almost. That's what?
Yeah, the inside was like a painting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just remember I think you probably had a little bit of trouble getting out of dirt. Once you were like in the dirt and digging, doing all that stuff, you were like the dirt guy for a while.
I was the dirt guy at school. I think one of my professors just kept saying that I loved digging and packing. That's like what I did. I was a digger and a packer, and I guess I was for a while.
Where does that come from?
Well, I come from a whole family of men that are diggers and earth movers, you know. So my grandfather, my uncle, my stepfather, another uncle, everybody moved dirt and earth, and I don't think I ever thought about that until after I kind of made these pieces. But
were you doing what kind of stuff were you doing as a kid growing up in Montana? Were you doing stuff like that, or
playing in the dirt, man? I remember there was one point we had this like little clubhouse that we called the Ninja Turtle Fan Club, and then I think it became the Chicago Bulls Fan Club.
Cool.
But my cousin and my sister and I would play in this like weird little fort that we had, and you know, digging around the dirt, we'd find bird skeletons and stuff like that in there. So you know, digging was always kind of interesting in what's hidden and what can be uncovered, I guess.
So archaeology and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was obsessed with fucking dinosaurs when I was a kid, all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you remember that movie Littlefoot?
It's called The Land Before Time, dude.
Oh. I tried to pose a stupid question because I already knew we could talk about that forever. But, you know, talking about archaeology and everything, this piece that you did at Artist Television Access.
In San Francisco, yeah.
You know, I got to go up there and help you with that and photograph some of the stuff. And that was pretty amazing to see that. Look at all these people watching that space from the street.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Yeah, we were kind of like encapsulated in this glass box at ATA, and we had a big dirt pile that we were pulling out all these body parts, which were like kind of plaster cast pieces of my body. And that's my partner, Kelly, in the blue, and then I'm in the red. And we're kind of acting as these beings from the future that are kind of uncovering human remains in the dirt and then packing them in these like kind of boxes with the dirt. And we created a whole system of labor words. Kelly created 14 labor words that we used to communicate with each other for working. And we did 5 performances. And so we were, that's Kelly. By the end of the project, we were actually using the words in full sentences and able to communicate with one another.
So you had a speaker out on the street, and you guys the set was mic'd on the inside, and you were just you were inside working, laboring on this art piece, and the public was not really engaging. They were just there and kind of collecting and watching you do this work.
Yeah.
And there was also I think there was a key where people could see what you guys were saying, right? Yeah,
the words were written up on the wall, but that was kind of hidden from the public. It was mostly for Kelly and I to kind of like, you know, use if we forgot what the word water meant, or mix, or more or less, dig, dirt, you know.
What were you think? Where were these characters from in your head? Like, where were you pulling this stuff, and where were they going?
I was thinking of these things very much as like these beings that kind of evolutionary beings that came out of the garbage of humanity after human extinction, and they're just these kind of like new evolutionary beings that sort of work together and are just kind of figuring out this world that they occupy.
So that was like a big turning point for me to witness you. You know, it was almost like less of like a static sculptural thing, and it became this like big performance portion.
Yeah.
You know, and you were using other people. You were bringing in other people to participate.
Yeah. Kelly was awesome.
Yeah. I think we missed one thing. I just want to talk about this piece that you did at Bread and Salt in the beginning when we did the very first show here at Bread and Salt. You know, we had access to the building through Jim Brown and Isabel, and they let us basically pull from anything in the building. And you fell in love with this attic space that was not accessible to many people. and you recreated what these workers had left in the factory, and you recreated it in a portion of the building where the public could come for the opening. And you basically, you did everything. You moved all the, you again documented in this kind of archaeological way, and then recomposed the found objects and even the writing on the walls.
Yeah. So this came right after I did that pile that we were just looking at earlier. So I was still thinking about that kind of movement of, you know, once, you know, a thing that lives in one space, and then when it's moved to another, is it still the same thing? So yeah, it was very much out of like the pile work. Yeah, so those are like various kinds of hoses and items that were also found in the attic. And then, you know, I meticulously kind of like measured and detailed everything, and then moved them again to this other room in the space, and built those walls too to scale.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you did all the drywall and all that stuff. This piece was really cool too. The building owns this piece, which someday we'll reinstall it. But you took all these gears and you color coordinated them with this found belt, and then installed the belt also. Yeah.
So it's the pieces that are colored in front of the belt mimic the same pattern of color in the belt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've meticulously set that up, and it was almost like a performance that nobody got to see. All this labor that went into doing that. That was like probably weeks of labor, where, you know, it doesn't translate. Nobody knew unless you were there to tell them or hear about how you got that stuff there.
Well, I think that's the way it is with a lot of, you know, installation and work in general. There's always this kind of hidden labor behind all that stuff. So, but I'm interested in the process. I think the process is as important as the finished piece a lot of times.
Is there anything we're missing right now?
No, man.
I wanted to show these all these masks that you've been making, and like you've been casting your body for a really long time. I know that was part of that earlier piece of the HEA piece, but you know.
Yeah, this one was pretty fun because I used 5 different people, friends of mine, to make these masks. I made masks about a year prior to this, but I have video documentation of people sitting in this chair kind of like spinning around, and they're wearing the masks, and I'm layering paint on top of their heads as they spin. And they're also barfing paint from their mouths, which I hooked up hoses. So they had to like kind of sit in the chair and squeeze paint through a syringe that came out of their mouth. And I haven't done anything with the video yet, but just kind of like working with the other artists that went through that process was pretty interesting.
And so it's acrylic paint. Is that why it keeps its shape? It's almost like mold making, or?
Yeah, it's like house paint, so it's kind of latex. But those are on busts of my own head that I cast. So.
Yeah, those pieces are intense, and then it kind of brings us to these other pieces of. I mean, it's probably out of chronological order, but.
Yeah, that's the body without organs. So all kind of like hyper-colored body pieces that are hollow in shape, and all the insides have kind of like been poured out. Yeah, the head is made of concrete and painted inside.
This head in particular is like pretty crazy to look at. Did you have
like a jack-o'-lantern?
Huh?
It's kind of like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, and you had it shown upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of got that whole jack-o'-lantern. Did you have a light inside of it, or?
That's from just the light hitting it perfectly, so it lights up really well. And but yeah, I kind of turned it upside down, sort of like a vase, I guess. Gets weirder upside down.
Yeah. But that piece in particular, like that, is that concrete that you formed on the outside? How did you end up doing that?
Yeah, I just that piece was cast in hydrocal, and then I just stuck concrete all over it. Sort of just a quick decision, and it was the right decision because it looks cool.
The way that you've been experimenting over the years, it's kind of like you don't always read the instructions on some of the materials that you're interested in, and I think it's made for these like really interesting results. You know, you kind of just have been experimenting. Your studio is just a giant experiment. This is just a better shot of one of the, this is the leg piece, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of like an egg.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's like a weird vessel that was cracked open and spilled out.
Yeah.
Which I have the hand to that series.
Yeah.
That I got.
Good one.
I love that piece. It's at my house. Yeah. Another thing I know that you've been doing for a long time, which I don't know if we're just kind of speeding through this, but you know, we could talk about all kinds of other things. But you're in a band right now. I don't know if you guys even call it a band. What do you call it?
It's a band. It's an art band, you know. It's called Sculpture. So we spell it with an emoji skull, Ture. And it's with my my bandmate Chris Sollers, who's also a great artist from the Bay Area. And we taught ourselves how to play guitar and drums, and we built this skull cabinet that houses all of our gear and push it around and play different places. We actually took it on BART last summer and played in Oakland and 16th Street BART station in San Francisco. It was great. Super weird.
Yeah, I have this photo of you guys, and the video's on YouTube, which we'll probably put a link to that. But this cabinet that you guys made contains all of your musical gear, and Chris has like a whole pack because he plays drums, so he's carrying all the gear on his back too. And
his kick drum sits in the back. Yeah,
you guys took all this stuff on the BART and you did a Bay Area tour just by public transit.
Yeah.
So there's this really great video where you're performing to the general public. You're like interacting with people getting on and off the train, and people are trying to push by, and they're not even really looking at you.
Yeah, it was surprising how many people didn't give a shit.
Yeah, the Bay Area is so not fazed by a weirdo on public transit.
Yeah, totally.
This is the inside of the cabinet, so I know the name kind of sounds like sculpture sometimes instead of sculpture, and I think you guys use that to your advantage. And you know, you guys are creating an art practice around what you're doing too. It's not just a sound album.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we've written a lot of songs. Like I said, we just kind of started teaching ourselves how to play. All the bands that I've been before, I was just a singer, so I learned how to play guitar for this band. Chris is playing guitar and like drumming, and all the songs we write, we make a graphic design for them. So a design that kind of like displays the content of the song. Made t-shirts, have made patches. Yeah, it's very, you know, performative and like design oriented and loud.
Yeah. I think that kind of brings us up to date. We have one. I want to see if there's a question here. Can you talk about your experience at Berkeley? How would you compare it to your experience at SDSU? This is Max Lafano asking this question. Max is our current artist in residence here in the building. And Max just went to SDSU, so, you know, people thinking about grad school and stuff.
Yeah, SDSU is great. I think SDSU is very craft oriented. So the way you make things, the way things kind of like come together was really stressed. I took a lot of printmaking, bookmaking, took sculpture, and some painting classes. And there's a big focus on craft. And at Berkeley, it was a lot more kind of focused on your concepts and choosing the right materials for those concepts, I think. Yeah, and it was an intense program. There were only 12 people in the graduate program. Tuition's covered, which was a big reason why I went there. But yeah, it was a great program, super small, intimate.
And you got a really great studio. I mean, we used to go visit you and stuff, and you had this big outdoor steel building. Yeah,
it was like an old kit shed from the 30s. I was the only one in, there's my friend Joe Enos was on the other side of the kit shed with me, but it was the perfect studio for me. Yeah, it was great. Big concrete floor.
I remember visiting some of the studios at the time when we were there, and, you know, everybody else kind of opted for the like safer indoor kind of cubicle style painting studios and things, and you were like, you were used to like the ice gallery style.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. No, that
building.
studio had like inside, outside, like praying mantises, and like I think the second day that I was there, a frog hopped out of my coffee maker. So
I was just gonna say, I remember you
yeah.
saying there were frogs in the sink and shit.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was great. It rained in there too, so I knew how to deal with that from ice gallery. So it would flood.
Do you and Kelly still use the words today from that ATA performance?
No. It's a good question. No, we haven't used them in a while.
Mikey says he's here now.
Oh, hi, Mikey.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, what else are we missing here? You know, so let's talk about right now. You live and work in the Bay Area.
Yeah. So, mostly sculpture is what I've been focusing on the last couple of years. I've been making work, but working 40 hours a week and doing the sculpture and then getting in the studio. It's just been a slower process in the studio. But since the world has kind of gone upside down, I left Bay Area right before shelter in place took effect to come to Montana, because Kelly and I quarantining our tiny apartment for what I was imagining at the time was going to be months, which it's turning out to be. We left and came to Montana, which is fortunate enough to do that and stay with my mom. So we've been quarantined here, and I brought my studio, and I've just been blasting it on a project that I started earlier this year, and then started working on all these like signs in the background.
Can you show us any of that stuff, or
Yeah.
I don't want to have you move the camera and make it all jumbly, but
well, let's see. Let's see, how do I do this? Oh, that's my mommy's garage.
Yeah.
The T stands for cherry. That's my mommy's name. So these are the posters that I've been working with. It's just from colored paper I had at my mom's house. And so I'm just kind of like looking at words that have sort of entered our popular vernacular since COVID-19 came into play. And I've just kind of been doing one a day. I haven't done one for a couple days, but. And then Judy Woodruff and Amy Goodman are a little different from the rest of these, but they're the ladies that I listen to for the news. So.
Yeah, I love the Amy Goodman one. I was listening today to Democracy Now!, and it's like, I don't know, they do the best reporting around, I swear.
She's the best.
Yeah. What are the red dots there? Are those punched out, or is it all paper? Or
yeah, they were hole punched. Yeah.
Wow. Did you punch the holes?
I did, and Kelly did.
Jeez, that's a little
Kelly helped me with that.
laborious.
Yeah, it was laborious. That one took like all day, but the rest of them were pretty fast. So
I know.
Those are what?
Oh, I don't know. What are you? So you're cutting out the letters and gluing them on there like old school? Is it like
yeah, so I get glue all over my fingers. It's totally like little kid style.
Yeah. The colors are great. I've seen you make some show flyers and stuff like that too with the same method.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of like kind of paper cutout stuff for sculpture for flyers. And then I've also been kind of like working on these bricks that I've been casting out of rubber.
Tell us about the bricks. I mean, the colors on those things are incredible.
Yeah, so I just find bricks on the street that are kind of like broken, and then I cast them. So over here I have some like molds going on. So I'm waiting on new material to come in from San Francisco from Douglas and Sturgis right now. I had to order some new stuff. So these molds are on hold right now, but yeah, they're just they're made out of this material called Vitaflex 40, and yeah, so I just cast these things with rubber, and they can. It's a cat. You can
the molds almost become. Yeah, it's funny The
They
mold
bounce really
become
well.
like little risers. The mold is interesting too. You're gonna hurt that cat.
He's out of here. Yeah, the molds are, I'm just kind of using them as risers right now. I have some plans for how I would want to show this in the future, but I want to make a lot more of them. So
that's like a lot already. How many are there?
I don't know. Close to, I don't want to count them right now, but there's a lot, but I want to make a lot more.
We're doing this website, and I know I asked you about this stuff. We want to try and sell all these artists' work where 100% of the profit goes to the artist, which is up and running. The Bread and Salt store is up and running. We've already sold some pieces of Melissa Walters and Chris Wassel. People are buying stuff, so check it out. It's really cool that the public is trying to support artists. I know some people might have money right now to buy work, and a lot of artists are out of the ability to show and sell work, so that's why we're offering stuff for sale. But we'd love to have some of your stuff on there.
Yeah, I'm down to put a few of these up on the Bread and Salt website. Yeah, I don't know what I would sell them for right now, but I'll put something up.
Somebody, I think we just asked this. Can you talk to us about the casted sculptures you're working on now? We just talked about that.
The bricks.
Yeah, you've done so much mold making. I mean, I guess that goes back to your earlier days doing the dirt and everything.
Yeah. Every time it's like a new learning experience, so I just kind of like fuck up until something kind of like starts to turn out right. That seems to be my working process.
Why so colorful lately?
Yeah, it's funny. Like with the dirt, I was just like brown for a long time, and in the last few years, just lots of color. I'm not really sure. I mean, like I think I'm attracted to bright colors. They're kind of, I don't know, sort of childish. I think with these bricks, it's really nice to have bright colors because the bricks kind of, when they're colored, they're sort of like Legos, but they can't really be used like Legos. They're not architecturally supportive, right? Because they're all broken.
It's funny to take a unit like a brick that has a standard form that's meant to be stacked like a unit, and then you break it, and it's all of a sudden not its intended use anymore. It's become this weird object.
Yeah, a little better for throwing, maybe.
What was I just gonna say? You when I first met you, you were doing you were all about comics, and I think you were submitting stuff to like your favorite comic book companies, and you were getting rejection letters by your.
Yeah, I still have the rejection letter from Fantagraphics. Yeah.
Do you still have a passion for that stuff, or what were you thinking at the time? Like, how did you all of a sudden abandon it? Were you getting rejected and you just said, forget it, No,
I kept drawing for a long time. I started working with like highlighter markers for color and stuff, and those got really bright. And actually, I think that's where I started getting really interested in color again, especially like bright colors. But I can't stand like sitting at a desk drawing for 8 hours a day. That's a kind of labor that's just it's too stagnant for me. So
I remember for the longest time you had a dedicated table with all the inks and all the stuff, and you were trying to do illustration, everything was illustration, everything.
Yeah, and the comics were really fun. Besides the labor of it, it was sort of like a working process in which I would draw a page, and then the next day I would react to that page and draw another one. So it was pretty spontaneous in that respect. But yeah, sitting at a desk is just kind of not really my bag anymore.
Yeah. I know working at the Contemporary Museum was pretty influential too. I know when you said you went to Berkeley, I remember at the time you just saying that you felt like you were a little bit further along than some of the artists that were there, and you'd mentioned that you got this great education from the Contemporary Museum from working there. You were there for, I don't know how many years you were on the prep crew with us, but
I wouldn't say I was further along. I was like all right at building stuff, but that was from the education that I received from just working at the museum. The museum was a place where I not only got an education. I mean, I didn't even know how to use a drill when I first started at the museum.
Sure.
So just like working in the wood shop and building all the things for the museum gave me some chops, and it also taught me a lot about contemporary art history too, you know.
I remember like one of your first jobs, we were we were creating up a Doris Salcedo sculpture.
Is that the big concrete one?
Yeah, you're on top of the cabinet and you were like with a drill and trying to screw down a lid, and you're like forever you're up there. It's like
backwards.
And you had the drill going the wrong way.
Yeah, classic.
But you worked on some big shows. I think a Baldessari retrospective with us, and
yeah, tons of shows. Yeah.
That's a pretty neat experience for young artists to be able to work on big shows like that. Specific philosophy for making or thinking about art?
Is that a question from somebody?
Yes.
Specific philosophy or for making or thinking about art? I don't know. I guess I like chance. I like working with kind of spontaneous working methods. It's usually a lot more fun if I don't know how to do something and then I kind of learn how to do it. Materials just kind of tend to build off from one project to another, you know, so the bricks are kind of like construction materials. I've worked with lots of concrete and earth, so they all kind of like have this this sort of lineage of interest for me in terms of like material and relations.
I know I was talking to Ponka about it a little bit, but I feel like so many times as artists, we all get this like big kick out of trying to figure something out. And once you've mastered it and you've produced a lot of work, it's time to move on to another series or another method because you've mastered that practice and you had a big output. So our artist brain or creative brain is always looking to that next thing to try to learn this new method.
Yeah, but then it's also circular too. Like you could go 10 years without working on something that you know had previously done, and then there's this like weird return. So like,
yeah,
like
I was thinking of it as the tool bag. Like you have this thing that you mastered and you put that in your tool bag, and 10 years later you might be like, oh, I could add this to the equation or whatever. It's like this.
Yeah, I think you were kind of talking about comics and stuff, but the last comic that I worked on was like these super weird mutants, really bright colors. I think the comic was about a mutant that lost its job at a meatpacking plant. And I think at that time I had lost my job during the 2008 financial crisis. But the use of color and like weird kind of mutant bodies came back, you know, in like 2016. So there's this kind of like circular relationship of interests. And
yeah, and I know you've always been interested in horror movies and sci-fi and all that, you know, kind of almost B stuff, you know, campy kind of things. Or do you still look to movies for inspiration and all that kind of thing, or books or writing? Do you write about work or?
Yeah, I write about work, but I don't really write about work outside of like applying for stuff. In terms of, I read a lot, so I kind of find subject matters that I've been thinking about, like reading a book right now called The A Human Manifesto by Patricia McCormick, and it's super interesting in terms of like ideas of human extinction and how we can kind of like come to terms with that, rather than like, you know, considering ourselves such an important species on the planet, like top of the food chain, how we can like kind of integrate with all the other species on the planet and kind of change the way that we think. Super interesting stuff. But yeah, I've been thinking about that for a while.
I know you like Cormac McCarthy and everything.
Yeah, Blood Meridian, yeah.
We only have about 10 minutes, but are we missing anything?
No, I mean, I think we just ran through that practice.
Do you have plans for the future? Isabel's asking, are you ever thinking about moving back to San Diego?
I love San Diego. I don't have a reason to move back right now. I do love the Bay Area. Got a good community there right now, and my band is there, so that's kind of the focus. And trying to get, just got a good job there right now doing some art handling with Minnesota Street. And yeah, just enjoying it there. I might stay in Montana for a long time. I don't know. I don't know right now. But
Yeah, what's it like being home? What part of Montana? What's it like?
it's Western Montana. It's in the Bitterroot Valley, right next to the Rocky Mountains. Super pretty, very low population.
How many?
I don't know. What?
How many? What's the population?
Well, Montana doesn't even have 1 million people in it, so
What?
yeah, it doesn't. Well, I think they just hit 1 million people.
No.
It's a big state, and they just hit 1 million people like in the last census, I think. So, yeah.
Way.
Yeah, it's really pretty. It's great. So I might just start working with cow shit soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remembered this losing a bet to you. I was working with Barry McGee, and I lost a $100 bet to you one time about
You're always trying to make $100 bets.
Yeah, we had this thing for a while where any bet had to be $100 bet.
Yeah.
And I lost a bet to you about Barry McGee.
Yeah, DFW.
DFW. I thought it was WTF or something.
You didn't believe that it stood for down for whatevs.
Down for whatevs. That still sounds fucking stupid. No, it was down for
$100.
$100 bet.
Yeah.
$100
Do you still make those?
No. I mean, I don't know. Nobody's that stupid anymore. $100 is important.
It is.
Yeah, $100 a month. Let's see. I think that's it for the questions. I don't know. What's up next? You're just gonna hang out and you're gonna do works on paper? You're still doing the bricks? Is there anything else we're missing? I know Kelly is doing macrame kind of stuff.
Yeah, she brought her macrame with her. Kelly taught herself how to do macrame last year, and she had her first craft show like in November, and like sold almost everything. And so she's working here at my mom's house, and she's got her macrame set up on the Bowflex.
You sent me a picture of that. It's pretty hilarious. You should.
It's like a Bowflex that my mom got in the 90s, and it's never really been used. But now Kelly's got her macrame set up on it, so it's serving a function.
Yeah. What else? You guys just did you worked for an artist doing macrame stuff at the San Francisco airport.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where Kelly's ability to do that kind of came in, and you worked on that project too.
Yeah. Artist is Dana Hemingway, and she just finished the project. It's at the airport right now. Unfortunately, it was like the day that it opened, like no one was allowed to go because groups of I think at the time it was like groups of over 25 people couldn't like come together. So it was a week before shelter in place went into effect in San Francisco.
But that piece is a semi-permanent piece at the airport?
Yeah, it's permanent. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And you guys were weaving like extension cords and utility cable and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was macrame with extension cord, yeah. And she also made these like beautiful ceramic kind of beads. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that definitely look cool. I mean, usually airports don't get the best work, but
they've got some really cool stuff going on at SFO right now, like massive rad work. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we should end it.
Okay. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Lee.
Love that white in the beard.
I didn't have that when we started. Trying to find a razor in this town after all this stuff has gone down, it's impossible.
Toilet paper and razors, man.
Yeah, razors, it's rough.
All right.
If anybody wants to watch more of these videos, they're going to be on YouTube. We're doing them Tuesday through Saturday, 1 p.m. We're talking to Andrew Alcacid tomorrow.
Yes.
Andrew's got a great story. We're going to be talking to Daniela Kelly from the Athenaeum and also Kari Fukuyama. So we're adding more people all the time,
Good
and
peeps. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna keep doing it. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job, Tom. You've turned into a hell of an interviewer. Proud of you.
Kind of totally phony. Melissa Walter, right? Lee's website is leemlavy.com.
Oh yeah. Lee M.
Why the M?
Stands for Michael.
Yeah, why do you got to put your middle name in your website?
I don't know. I just did that a long time ago. I don't know.
I remember you also did the Ice Gallery SD website. You got the domain for that, and we were like, "Why the SD?" You were
There
like, "I don't know."
was no Ice Gallery website available. It had to be SD.
All right.
That's the way it works, man.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Bye.